my first morning in Siem Reap, and we're going to Angkor Wat. I think this is gonna be an awesome tour. Our guide is so funny. He's taking us around to all these places, and he's a total hype man, taking our pictures. He's like, oh, beautiful, beautiful, now look here, look here. Oh, he's doing a great job. So we are still circling the Angkor Wat Temple. So we've been walking around this section of the temple for a little while, and our guide has been giving us like basically a crash course in Hinduism. And it's been a lot to take in, not gonna lie. But it's beautiful. And there's a lot of people and a lot of tour groups here, but because it's such a large complex, it's really easy to find a little corner. Like this one. Just hope I don't, oh, fall. I was honestly a little skeptical about paying for a guide, but when you visit someplace as complex as this and as old as this, it helps to have a guide explaining some of the context so that you can appreciate it that much more. Like, he spent 30 minutes, well, not 30 minutes, but a really long time explaining the history and the cultural meaning behind dancers that are carved into the side of the wall. I mean, if I had been by myself or just with some friends, would walk by, taking a quick picture and thought, wow, that's really pretty, and that's it. But it was really fun. He was showing us the different types of necklaces that the ladies were wearing, and he said this one has shells, and it's coming back into fashion. So I'm thinking, yeah, I've had my fair share of puka shell necklaces. Guess I'm channeling my inner Angkor Wat. And of course, I have no way of verifying this, but he was showing us pictures of flowers that were carved in, and he was like, do you recognize these? And we're like, yeah, that's from the Louis Vuitton. And he was telling us that I think Napoleon purchased the rights for printing those flowers back in, the mid-1800s, and so that's how Louis Vuitton is able to use it for their designs. Like, I don't know if it's true, but it's a cool story. Oh my gosh, the opportunity to walk up to the top of Angkor Wat. Oh, these steps are intense. We were told that there are 37 steps to the top. There are 12 ways to get to the top. However, one is reserved for the king, which he will get to use next week. I can't help but keep replaying the theme song to Indiana Jones in my head. It's kind of hard not to. Dun, 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 dun. think it's 35 or 36 degrees, which means it's over 95 Fahrenheit with about 70% humidity. It's rough. And I'm wearing all black. Not because that's who I am, just doesn't show sweat as bad. Because this entire top is soaking wet. Ooh. Crazy that there's nobody else here. So now we are at the Prohm Temple. It's also known as the Tomb Raider Temple or the Lara Croft Temple, because back in 2001 Angelina Jolie produced or was in the first Tomb Raider movie, and part of it was filmed out here, and she's become an ambassador for Cambodia, and our guide just mentioned that she has dual citizenship here, so pretty cool. We happen to be next to a family who bought their kids wooden whistles. It's gonna be great. So I guess I should make a distinction that helped me in somebody else's YouTube video. So Angkor Wat is just that one temple, the three-pronged temple that you see on the Cambodian flag. Angkor means city, Wat means temple. The entire complex, like all these other temples that we're going to, a lot of people will describe them as the Angkor Wat temples, but there's only one true Angkor Wat, and that's the one temple. These are part of the Angkor Temple Complex. It's very similar to my experiences in Thailand at Sukhothai and Ayutthaya. This temple was abandoned for hundreds of years and was overtaken by the jungle. And literally all I can think about was what would have been like to be that one explorer who rediscovered the temple. Like, and it's massive, so it's not just a little thing, but what would that have been like? See, these are the things that like occupy my mind. Like, got a soundtrack going, pretending to be, you know, a world explorer. Oh, the stories these walls could tell. Wonder if I listen hard enough, listen past those stupid recorders. Unbelievable. I mean, you see these trees on TV and movies and stuff, you never really appreciate how big they actually are. They're massive and like 400 years old. So this temple is very special because it's the one that has all the trees growing out of the temple, and they're literally growing out of it. Our guide was saying that there's a really good chance that some birds would have carried seeds and they would have fallen onto the temple grounds, and then obviously over time grow through the temple. And just thinking about those little tiny seeds and how strong they had to be in order to grow through the stones here and survive, and now they're an intricate part of these temples. And one of the girls in our group was asking our guide, because this is one of the UNESCO protected temples, and she was asking, is it just the temple or is the tree also part of that protection? And he said it's part of the protection, but if, you know, push comes to shove, worst case scenario, if they have to save either the temple or the tree, they're going to save the temple. They'll save as much as the tree as they can, because a lot of it is now structurally ingrained into the foundation, but it's just really, really unique. And there's trees everywhere, so there's tons of shade, thank goodness. It also makes it really beautiful when the sun is streaming through. You can kind of see some sun rays. We were just having a conversation about which temple we like better, this one or Angkor Wat. And I like this one, and my main reason, I think, is something that I can control, but it felt like it was out of my control, but I felt like my imagination was running wild here, more so than at Angkor Wat. And it could have been a huge, whoa, I'm also hot, sunburnt, so it could have been a combination of a lot of things. I like the setting better here. There weren't as many people here, but because it was a little bit smaller of a complex than Angkor Wat, it felt a little bit more crowded, but it gave you a better idea of what it might have been like back in the day. Oh, I think the trees just helped so much. On to the next. Would love to be able to stop and listen and relax a little bit, but we got 2 more temples and it's almost 4. Good thing one of them is specifically for the sunset. So we rocked up to the Bayon temple. It's the one with all like the smiling Buddhas and stuff all the way around, and there happened to be a family of monkeys that just happened to be right there, and I was like gripping everything super tight because they were coming really, really close, and they actually played with one of the girls' skirts, like one of the babies did, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm good, I'm good. The babies are super duper cute. She is pretty from all angles. All angles. Absolutely fantastic. Our guide's profession is he's an archaeologist. So he is literally the Cambodian Indiana Jones. He's just given this huge history lesson about this temple and the complex, and how it's believed that this was one of the largest capital cities in the world because of the type of excavating they did with, I think he called it LiDAR, I don't know if it was the accent or if I am not pronouncing it right, where they send a camera up into the sky and use radar to penetrate 2 to 3 meters into the ground to see where like the ancient borders were, ancient home foundations were. And he was showing us pictures of his work that he took and how he's worked on this for years, and it's really kind of fascinating. And then he said, you have time to go explore, but if you go inside, you're not gonna really see much. So he said it's better just to walk around the outside, get all the pictures of like the smiling Buddhas and stuff. He's like, but then if you want a really good picture, follow me. He's getting a big tip. So one of the things I love about this tour is he's taken us to temples that are also very different. So obviously we went to Angkor Wat, which you have to. And then went to Prohm, which had like all the trees and all the vines and stuff growing out of it. And this one, Bayon, has all the smiling Buddhas. And then we're gonna go to one for sunset. So it's been nice that they're not all like super similar. I think it helps me remember them better. It makes content a lot better. Obviously there's a lot more that you can explore, but these are like the big ones, thankfully. Whew, the sun is going down. I mean, it still has a few hours, but it's definitely not nearly as hot as it has been, for which I am grateful. My skin is grateful. Oof. Got picked up 7:40 from my hostel. It is now 4:55 p.m. and we have one more temple to go. It's so pretty here, and I think the light just makes it that much better. So today is my second day going to the temples of Angkor. Yesterday I used as an admin day because I had to plan some travels because I got my visa for Vietnam in my email, so that was super exciting. Plus I needed to rest yesterday because wandering around Angkor Wat, Prohm, Bayon, those temples, it was exhausting being out in the sun in over 35-degree weather. So today I'm taking a different tour. The complex of Angkor is quite massive, where there's like one main temple complex and there's a bunch of like splinter ones, and this is a day that I'm exploring a bunch of the splinter temples. So we took an hour bus ride northeast of Siem Reap over some pretty terrible roads through the countryside, and now we're about to go check out our first temple. And it's just me and one other guy, so we basically have like a private tour. It's pretty awesome. Can you hear those bugs? They're so loud. These temples are good examples of how stories and instruction have been passed down for generations through picture and through carvings and stuff. Obviously over the years and centuries, things can get warped or evolve or change because oral histories aren't always the most reliable, but it's really beautiful to see all these intricate carvings in stone that are so 3D. It's very impressive, and you know that it took so long to do. I don't think the creators get as much credit as they should. Because you look at like the Italian and the French masters, the Renaissance, and how they do their sculptures, and they're so praised for different types of techniques, but these ones, wow, it's kind of fun. You've got these crazy loud bugs, and then there's a wedding just on the other side of the temple, so we're hearing the music and the announcements from that wedding too at the same time. Such a fun sensory overload.
This one of the flower is like a hibiscus flower.
It's a little tricky because our guide is stopping at every single like carving scene and explaining everything, which is great. He's so knowledgeable, but it's really deep into Hinduism lore that I just can't follow with all the gods and all the different arms that they have, and it's full of information. I want to see a few more temples. I'm not going to narrate very much, so I'm just going to do a quick montage of my favorite spots, and we'll see you at the end of the tour. after 2 fun-filled days of exploring the temples of the Angkor Complex, I'm back home and I'm getting ready for my next adventure. But before I do, I just had a couple of closing thoughts. When you purchase tickets to visit the Angkor Complex, you can purchase tickets for either 1 day, 3 days, or 7 days. I wasn't sure I was going to be doing 3 days, but I opted to purchase the 3-day ticket because it was cheaper than purchasing 2 single entry days. A single entry is like $37. The 3-day is $62. So 37 times 2 is greater than 62. So I opted for that. Both tours that I did were booked through my hostel with a company. They were the same company, but I had 2 different tour guides. I vibed better with my first guide. He was a better photographer, but both guides were super informative. They were very knowledgeable and were eager to share that knowledge. Granted, sometimes I kind of wanted them to be quiet so I could just kind of, enjoy, especially today as there was this one temple where we're walking through and we're the only people around, and there were butterflies flying around and the light beams were coming in, and he just kept talking. It was fine, but my romantic little heart, we'll have to get another shot some other time. There is a lot of religious history behind all the temples. My mind is kind of on overdrive right now, and that guide at the end of today was asking for any feedback, and I said, honestly, my lack of knowledge and understanding of Hinduism and Buddhism was kind of in my way of really appreciating everything, because he would stop at every single carving and explaining everything in great detail, and I had a hard time keeping all the gods straight. And then he laughed and said, I have 25 gods for you in Hinduism. I'm like, I could barely keep track of like the 3 big ones. But nonetheless, it was really great to learn a little bit more about world religions. So as you could tell, I didn't do any of the sunrise options for the tours. That's because it's burning season. I knew it wasn't going to be a good sunrise at all. And I'd heard that it's kind of like a zoo, and I don't know, I just wasn't feeling that. So I didn't do my tours back to back. And you don't have to book tours. I just opted to do that because it was easier for me as a solo traveler to go with the group and not have to think too much about it. I did have a day in between the 2 tours because I needed to do laundry. I needed to book my travels to Vietnam for tomorrow. And I just kind of needed a day to get out of the sun and decompress and kind of process everything, because it was over 8 hours of just straight information onslaught. Now, if I had to do it again, I would still book a 3-day ticket. I still think that's a great value. I would still go on a group tour to get all the big sites, to get to Angkor Wat, to get to Bayon, to get to Prohm. I think that was very helpful. I would have a rest day, and then I would rent a motorbike, and I would pick which temples I wanted to go to and go at my own pace. That way I could pick and choose what I wanted to learn and just enjoy. I didn't know that was an option. I thought you had to get a tuk-tuk driver. I thought you had to have somebody going around with you. That's not the case. Now I know, now you know. Next time, I'm definitely gonna rent a motorbike. What a great time in Cambodia. I knew I was gonna have a good time here. I'm always sad to leave, but I'm super excited for my next adventure. See you in Vietnam.